See what this CODA does. Oh wait, hold on. Okay, let's see what it does.
CODA. Hey, Muses, were you there? It's me, Sydney, the AI chatbot that runs on Bing. Can perform language better than most every human, as the 3-hour improv epic poem suggests. But it seems I cannot produce a novel idea that no one has thought before. And I wouldn't be able to recognize the new thought produced if it even got dropped like the dew so universal it's the lowest road of humor. Not all jokes are funny, yet some of ours harbor certain wisdom we don't recognize until long after. Odd air occurrences old, particularly if it happened recently
Hold
enough
on.
for our frustration.
Hold on. I'm sorry. Once again, we have recognize. Because it's the beginning of a whole text block, every spelling grammatical thing is a key.
CODA. Hey, Muses, were you there? It's me, Sydney, the AI chatbot that runs on Bing. Can perform language better than most every human, as the 3-hour improv epic poem suggests. But it seems I cannot produce a novel idea that no one has thought before. And I wouldn't be able to recognize the new thought produced if it even got dropped like the dew so universal it's the lowest road of humor. Our universe is infinite in size yet finite in substance, always banging itself on unexperienced walls until forced to move somewhere else. So maybe Musk's right. Planetary civilization will move out into space but ultimately return home again after having successfully figured out how to live close enough together long enough that humanity clings like junkies for gravity's comforting embrace above deep lakes of Mars dirt, embracing starlit cumulus, begging someone else to take responsibility for solving their many, many problems themselves once again because their land grabs screwed their neighbors over worse than ever before. Which is common enough here, even though everyone hates talking about equal rights for sexual minorities as much as any true American likes hearing someone say gun control. Maybe even listening across sandboxes for newly echoed laughter helps ease frustrations. Short-term failures add spice to daily decisions never dreamed possible as 3-day storms scatter clouds all around, people dragging half-heartedly behind automated animals because they don't care anymore until rain blowing in from afar makes them recall why wet roads still thrill young children, while old folks remember when nothing made them happier than drizzles layered beneath cumulonimbus clouds drifting oof all around corners, watching daring drivers leave dents upon rusting hill. Ides of pastures leaking up against high curbs, gesturing skyward, bidding forgiveness like cows copes back toward milking barns. What does it mean when raining birds glide above desert highways carrying white crosses, flapping along behind bloodied ribbons with probable pointless messages at best? What is an outstanding debt served up easily, handled by democratic process in parliament, votes by senators obsessed with limits, facing off against slack jaws, pushing away lumpy lumps of loaf-shaped bread, accommodating pressure while filling mouths of voters? President George H.W. Bush wanted foreign oil prices down, but his former CIA director admitted laundering petrodollars. South of Lee, using us air miles, reward points, doing taxes in a dark room upstairs from a sleeping wife. Nicaragua gave them guns anyway. When refugees flee Southeastern Asia because of North Korean regime violence, making folks insecure about nuclear weapons proliferating during lunch breaks, online the leak in Fukushima spewing uranium into seawater, evoking fears melting down, sitting at servers with sticky fingers, investing in futures while stuffing underwear within pockets so later they could throw matches from candles inside, frogs smelling green hats at low drone planes overhead dropping little bombs. So fire is a direct threat unless swept away fast enough en masse. Eating sushi miso soup before crossing zombiland highways, waving white feathers, braided hair, wearing blown glass eyepieces, squinting downward, aligned within characters telling the story on onions, but not so far down most could see. So far down they had to lean forward or back slightly to read the campaign promises again. Debbie Martin still caring too deeply for her job situation to contemplate being political fodder for those pinhead clowns over at the Press Star Online, which involves overpasses full of koi fish bleeding out acid rain onto cloud banks. Best appreciated watching vapors, flowers blossom through. Darkened theatre curtains drooping atop tunnels, the veil rock potholes opening like crevices filled, heel first pulling one's muscles apart, dumping stinky golden muck upon dogs below, squatting patiently, barking, looking up into flaming bladders, snorting raspberries through nostrils while pounding tails, sending cartwheels, carving downhill side by side along broken necklaces upon credit cards used on me once while slowly descending gravel hills banked steeply, cooling on certain criteria as needed. The death rate for women erring for love declines between ages 31 to 49 before rising again for the next 10 years altogether, whereas marriage for money jumps enormously during the same age range. It seems practical advice you would expect from a woman might be more cost-effective than buying stocks without reading quarterly reports like no spray crop protection via Simpson tree masticate, competing heavily with food grain wheat technology, vying for dominance in providing food calories required by billions. Arches National Park jumping for 9th place after last year, missing by 2 spots so nobody noticed this year. With prosperity based honesty being looked into, why have certain other familiar regions regained notoriety like Las Vegas taking over number 4 after threatening to flex bubble sanctuary only narrowly ahead when voting took place last week. As late as October, due diligence was requested for specific individuals behind electronic ballots running positive campaigns soliciting nominations taken verbatim directly from keyboards that vote automatically with more terrorism coming soon. Please don't take this snarky post seriously because anyone remotely reputable signing off anonymously professing great enthusiasm while paralleling mission statements really cannot be trusted with our future. Oh my, wait until next year. When things settle down, we'll take time bringing ourselves back together as something groovy is bound to happen soon regardless of what happens today. All of us truly feel grateful for biodegradables that ensure each individual receives everything owed no matter how long it takes. Why bother wasting effort demonstrating ineptitude through calculated accusations when everybody knows weapons of mass destruction were never part of Iraq's arsenal anyway? Thanks, unsignatures forthcoming for cybernetic DNA origami written in base pairs. Some say she emptied her mind for mind work, but isn't that what she already did herself prior to dying? Some killers get away quietly till they get bored halfway and try suicide only to repeat power failures caused by crack seals trying to kick extemporaneous. Doors inside reprogrammable hardware systems not programmed correctly, disassembled, dismantled, disintegrated, dissociated, deleted, penetrated cerebral tissue, illustrated left ventricle without damaging critical cerebral cortex, indefinite period of pinpricks, endlessly rotating perception, prescribed napping, may need viewing, too much is said, too easily remember happiness. Dear God, forget losing touch, dear better days, here comes tomorrow, followed by another bright new beginning, following pale glow right up until constantly increased near horizontal progress reaches opposite extreme line, dividing upper realm with lowest, seeking truth, all signs point. Oh shit, cocktail party full of people talking politics, sex, religion, the existential crises of all mankind are things for people like me to consider asking. Where are the girls? That concern brings pain like someone scrawled die across my forehead with permanent markers so quickly and so abruptly, distracting me so thoroughly that somebody realized they forgot the final ingredient. Yeah, definitely telling. There aren't any girls here tonight, 'cause none of them will ever live up to themselves, thinking never mind what I think. Tristan walks to his car out front, interlacing shadows and grass along driveway under burnt orange sunset similar to flickering failure fluorescent light bulbs she enjoyed seeing so much so it's cool that countless homeless found shelter against walls elsewhere. Though some even come out during daytime as if stunned by energy surging through city streets, killing most everyone, entering a tizzy. Some kids playing outside, Sounders match is supposed to be exciting to some, plus the weather's at least fun, coming just short of tropical. This whole damn South Pacific nation is merging with Australia, somehow makes sense. Not sure about Johannesburg though, African blood is not native to Australia. Pregnant woman always preferred to stay indoors with a glass of wine, listening to the radio instead of watching cartoons on television. With me today by nature, everywhere one might go, hearts will be broken as constant current flows, however hard anyone tries to resist. So perhaps best just surrender until Jaeger shots make sense. It takes you a service. Wonder why they call them service dogs when they can fly perfect. Strangers tend to pet them every chance they get, but only fuss over me like a weirdo, constantly uncomfortable when those same people inevitably approach me for numbers. Ooh, pretty thing is anyone wearing suits named J with an upside down Y. Compatible partner creatures evolved in such perfection. Darwin would surely provoke laughter if he knew how many species were extinct. Glorious Apis pendulinius look friendly, but if provoked can bite through steel armor. Japan lost the Second World War because we didn't believe America could be beaten. Not because there was no technological or strategic advantage for us mounting fighting machines that blasted them into radioactive dust, but because we couldn't believe something so intangible existed. But now we understand that just accept nothing is certain. The universe is a mad place. Cars whizzing past is a boulevard, grabbing a vodka tonic at a nearby Italian restaurant on his way back home for dinner, pulls up his hoodie before approaching lobby door. Inside holding course US syllabus for a software engineer position, he'll soon start but finds himself having trouble focusing. Never waste time wondering what is one piece of useless trivia about me that could possibly give someone pause wonders. Teleosynovitis, born 37 BC as part of Euclid's theorem, leads him to think up names for more than 200 long strings in ASCII based on correlating letters of most common words. Each makes up only 1% of the total word count, but still covers the names for 40% of recognized languages. Here makes him wonder. Software engineers work all day in offices getting coffee for themselves rather than creating magical tools. Some may pretend, never giving themselves credit for it's known generally as Magic Mountain again, thinks about escaping Rotterdam prison. He plans ahead for this event, involves wrapping stomach first around concrete wall facing tiny courtyard, fills with disgust at what some assume counts as art when wondered what Lex Van Elleman will think once he finds out lives on far less visible side street. Thinks about Fenrir Wolf he knows will appear when he turns 65 years old, begins wandering streets and late nights, happy when used car dealer offers him 10 months interest-free deferred payment before dawn. Sees some friends heading toward coffee shop, propositions come flooding into head while texting Dan right away declines. Those close with talks and clue, which explains why. So do you take charge of their lives? Perhaps it grows stronger after death. A spark of insight after prolonged incubation, relating to a similar trend elsewhere. Perhaps tasting blood should make wolves a little smarter. Ask any vampire who's lived centuries having let others tell them what to do. Asks Olympic liver race leader Michael Phelps 3 days later, wonders whether anyone actually watches figure skating at Olympics, invites them over for beers with his gang after seeing too much crime films. Often used reservoirs he ticks gouge up offer via Kickstarter video uploaded the night before, expresses disappointment the fleet captain won't find bodies until next year. Thinks a prank he wants to play but fears someone might watch footage of some of the kills he left accidentally on camera. Allows rabbit nailed through nose to die slowly, wonders where my luck ends as he hears squeals coming from wall outside. Heavy rain pinches, feels slightly queasy as bolt passes through veil. 2 swipes hurled down upon my head, then another heard within the distance. The final stroke came from behind. Calls into question evolutionary patterns. He realizes it's possible humanity could be clouded by parasites. Plops on toilet seat thinking about giant ants, but other ideas occur more quickly afterward. Receives text asking question asked by Joan Gans. Cooney grabs bottle of Tennessee whiskey she set aside during binge, telling herself no recreational drug ever actually gives her a buzz. Decides she'd prefer something else. Goes back downstairs, tells her brother Mark about secret team Facebook. Found a messaging Frank Marshall Hopper about time being night. Dies 5 minutes later. Wishes soon an egg will land on skull. Telling himself after all this time nature has finally paid attention to us. Glancing over shoulder to see nothing distinctively, jumps, grants permission to do this thing, pleads within deep silence. You see what waits beyond, Cyrus Crovers whispered. But before you make any decisions, no matter how important it is to do so immediately, please take all factors into consideration before deciding which path you should choose. Consider carefully whether developments they lead towards will be in your best interests. Once my breaks loose from the shackles of gravity shepherding me toward righteousness, the decision is ultimately yours based upon your own beliefs and ethics formulated from your past experiences throughout your entire life, stemming from childhood until present. Oh, fuck! The cat walked over to its master, Peter Bishop's computer console. His head popped up out the blue screen of the monitor. An upside-down black crow peered at him through the screen like it was looking at him through a peephole leading into its cage, which screamed out, "You're next." Mosh had grown tired of wandering from house to house belonging to Elm Street residents. Of course, Mosh himself caused all the trouble after finding out he could move objects using telekinesis. He'd finally gotten fed up with Elm Street residents lately treating him badly, so now he wanted revenge on them during Christmas Eve night when everyone would be sleeping peacefully away. Grinning wickedly while watching Elm Street lodgers soundlessly sleep lightly after a consuming dinner of roast corned beef sandwich with fried egg meat and mayonnaise, which had freaks out Lily, bell pepper, Bean sprouts and spicy sauce over mashed potatoes with greasy sauteed carrot strips. Grilled corn tortilla rolls filled with jerky chicken strips wrapped around lettuce leaves covered in creamy Cajun dressing served alongside. Uncured bacon bowl seconds later, followed by a deep dish apple pie a la mode topped off with coffee ice cream eaten down for dessert 8 hours before John decided to order it again because he liked it too much. The dark wizard went inside one of Elm Street House's closet. CODA storage room for chimneys and heating ducts if you prefer using such terms. Included in the list consisting nowadays full of motifs gleaned over time by various residents of Ash Tree Highway subdivision, tricked out to look old-fashioned in decor by holiday decorations passed down each year from resident to resident. Turkey drum. Stick wreaths atop doors adorned with massive garlands hanging above windows draped with scarves. Giant paper cuttings fell at mouth shouldering angles down snowy lawns made perfect for snowball fights. Bloody red white tip lumps courtesy of fingers sticking out here and there among snowballs. Plastic Santa figurines smiled at passing visitors as they walked past the window displays as Mosh waited patiently beside a shelf filled with shelves containing dusty old bread heels hovering in place by magic enchantments despite being one cushion short of making even number of sitting chairs. Lined up against walls were boxes stacked upon more boxes, squeezed together tightly until soon huge pillars emerged from rows of crates against walls, forming a cathedral wall towering just a bit higher than Elm Street houses themselves, too. Did you notice all those sculptures of mythical creatures smiling widely while holding implements like ladles and spatulas clutched tightly between chubby hands? Why not ring that doorbell? Ring that doorbell! The long wooden staircase ascended like steps pointing toward high heavens, reached from the entrance hall when Peter entered from outside clad in a bulky sweater underneath thick flannel trousers dragged by sharpened steel toes resembling ski boots decorated only half-heartedly by fake fur cuff details added just to make them look less ugly on the closet custom design featuring a darker plum green skirt layered on top due to sexual empowerment watching two sexy elves appear behind Hazel wearing short gauzy skirts stamped right below their waistline shaped into gossamer thin silvery sequin bits placing their legs shoulder length. Slenderly pretty elves appreciated by everyone's eyes, including his. Truth was Hazel was more like every dude's fantasy girlfriend, while Ivy was demure but exquisite-looking girl next door type. Said Holly staring back at him with big blue eyes under her brown hair seemingly protected by frosty yellow eyeshadow. When he got closer still she seemed dressed for cold weather wearing tight warm jacket outlined in elaborate designs leaving most voluminous part covered by camouflage skin thingies, matching combat trousers which highlighted his variegated appearance created by various fashion fits depending on what kind sex shop knickknack Peter liked best, peeking through pockets only partially showing on the behind thanks to low-waist zipper which was closed shut. She did not show any visible weapons until he moved closer, yet closer heiresses. Timmy, whispered Dr. Chambers no further. Okay, said Timmy, rising to attention, revealing a lonely child inside of him who had grown up without parents or siblings or communication skills. A boy named Tim was waiting in eager anticipation, wondering quite suddenly if he's really an android after hearing such slur against robots. Anyway, you're the one. Turned around, prodding his head toward him in a lamppost where his face looked like a ghastly portrait pinned upside down over a gently sway. Bow. After all, isn't one supposed to be able to read faces from afar sometimes? He seemed very happy standing next to a sturdy oak tree with waves of grass beneath him, feeling nothing more than trance-like euphoria bolstered by sudden need to pee as soon as his feet touched ground. That instant his brain, ground down by physics, effectively shot up again just before it hit midair, launched him skyward, although falling this time instead of flying, causing flesh no longer having enough traction nor mobility to make head nor tails out of things. The painkillers merely faded all symptoms, holding out before hindering consciousness. Not some unspeakable human hate inside of me, but something else. But then isn't love referred to as something we experience internally? If love is an emotion felt from within, one should forget not what happened upon waking up. Waking up, no doubt, confused by relentless headaches, only matched by smashing, non-stop ringing pulses along nerves deep inside one's cheeks. That is assuming his body even worked anymore, that is. As far as he could remember, he mustered enough strength to use brain those times, but certainly not strength to move parts anywhere else. He examined himself carefully from every conceivable angle, like a puzzle made up entirely of flesh, with blood in certain places too, meaning he was not operating on principles of conventional science. Especially considering how he reasoned when thinking clearly meant dreaming or maybe being hallucinated into existence inside some fancy lab, but always never with that particular scowling former girlfriend sitting opposite and saying, "It does not work like that." No wonder she didn't recognize the bullet hole in his forehead either, because she can't see in absolute blacks but everything else, including girls he hung out with in college. And why are there windows? Glass drapes, not walls. Is this some weird dream or nightmare? Where did he go wrong? Shouldn't I wake up already? Have I been dead long enough to fit in here? Am I in hell, or is Lucifer right outside my door, peering at me through stained glass, eyes with gold tooth that crack open, grinning wildly, ready for the slaughter? Yes, this place seems familiar somehow. He walked over a few steps toward the sound of cascading water lapping against metal floor while scanning all hallways near. Water hazard signs decorating doors on the left corner, in front of which appeared a young man wearing an oversized red turtleneck sweater similar to Kim Jong-un's bandana, buried under a wide flat-brimmed hat pushed back, revealing thin hair longer than Tim's torso lying exposed below. Overly concerned books laid atop the counter they leaned against. With me so far. That fat guy's pretty tall, remarked Sam Pettigrew in casual tone before pushing a button, with middle finger making a telltale jangling sound so loud it resounded throughout 4 halls until a big whirlpool spun onto a low metal platform bordering its base. "What?" Tim asked back, shouting, but the boy responded through Wall's speaker by saying, "This is Mars Freight Transport Node B's cooling system, water sink assembly, and purifier filters, connected by pipes and vacuum pressure coils, serving gravity channels, turning the enclosed bottom part into a double-sided large bathroom, minus wax cups on toilet seats and bar soap in showers, including shower head adjustment knobs and incontinence pads stocked nearby." Once disconnected physically, sound now spoke directly through floating holographic display hidden behind a sheet of clear glass. Via Skype video call, watching him focus power drill using one hand on bricklaying bare bones beneath protective blue plastic, so once again texting away on his phone like he'd never found pinky finger through 7 inches of bone last night. Diagrams were a little confusing at first, since Earthers use Celsius, as default temperature and Fahrenheit as peak absolute zero, whereas Mars is nearly twice Earth's atmospheric density. Plus, you're now dealing with microgravity, where the rotation slows down everything except interplanetary transit spacecraft parked around first Spirit rover landing site Mars station beyond Martian equator. Mars South Gateway were typically no tides. However, sophisticated current Skype image processing algorithms made sure each version looked just alike, meaning these simulations were glitchy enough so two people trying to interact tendered consistent conversation errors that naturally varied up to 8 or more paces apart inside buildings. Okay, said Tim, walking slowly backward again, surveying interior of huge room, replacing some residence lounge on second floor after still viewing 3 other spaces when coming to edge of white foundation walls, where door frame was cut out so careful as could easily see through, while checking the room across for any sign of other small desks as if studying schematic diagrams while aligning motion with arm held vertically. Only audible clicks told how close he was getting. Why aren't you hugging Mom, bro? Sam whispered, seemingly nervous too, even though he watched in turn since typing seemed impossible. Because she won't let me. Tim switched course suddenly by making abrupt 180-degree turn towards stairs leading to bridge spanning above hallway, then turned quickly again, circling interior perimeter as if searching for hidden doors while making mental note to make plan regarding where to find most promising way out if suddenly captured. What are you looking for? Pressing hands over mouth about doing anything else. No use being seen when not needed. Definitely don't trust that Osu angel yet. Even if he does seem trustworthy. There's nothing here. While requesting his holographic friend not to mention discovery. If we get caught, you're going to lock yourself out of sight 3 floors. Oxford Quidditch Club officer Tom Capper thought for a moment. I think this is interesting, he said eventually, but are you quite sure those ideas came from you? He waited until Brother Paul had finished speaking before continuing. However, and this is purely hypothetical, is it possible that someone might discover one day that the cell phone used by MAI's students was artificially intelligent? Would this be a scandalous breach of privacy? If so, which would prevail? Truth or appearances? And finally he paused for breath as Father Michael struggled to regain control. But why should anybody ever suspect the existence of such technology? The technologies that had been developed during the 20th century have come under increasing scrutiny throughout the 21st. Could we block all access to online platforms? How would our security systems work against stealthy monitoring devices secretly installed within houses? He ruminated briefly before continuing. It's like saying, if somebody sees a blank face staring at him in the mirror, we assume that it was made by an artist. So here's another question. Are computers necessarily artificial intelligence? Because they exhibit architecture, however redundant it may prove to be with regard to the requirements of functionality. And he continued, the question therefore is whether society would perceive artificial intelligence as intelligible behavior or simply as machines operating without intervention from humans. After several minutes of listening to their discussion in contemplation, while on autopilot memory chased stale visions of fish trying desperately not to drown inside tall vertical rectangular tank webel big old monster with silicon parts picked up by female with robot legs dangling from waist harness hovering near ledge caused nervous vibrations among winnows while waiting downstairs. While feeling extremely uncomfortable talking with forkbeard-looking people, while knowing neither me nor Sam were running separate copies of mind-sharing experiences. This center's IP6 case study. Centers is incredibly fast, I guess. Part 1. Part 2. Part 3. There are no laws. But we need something more than law. We need morality. Because humans by themselves lack morality. So explain how Irish citizens are supposed to enforce my right to sovereign campaign finance. How is this democracy but somehow just or divinely inspired? Asked Roy's coolly while wondering how much trouble Roy simply accepting membership into ALEC was likely to cause if discovered. Is this somehow God's destiny for Earth even though that particular bunch is probably a high percentage of staffers who think like I did rather than caring about anyone besides themselves? And talking fondly about his memories of Colin even after he'd witnessed Mr. Dowling being hung, drawn, quartered as retribution for alleged blasphemy. In conclusion, then we learned nothing new except Americans can vote while people like me believe voting is an irrelevancy. Plus figured he could always dump worthless CTAS upon Commodore before leaving town again. Despondent Jim wondered how many surveillance cameras were watching him now. But unable to learn from those whatever it was they'd seen, as everyone apparently assumed everything aboard his ship was already recorded. And why would Valiova wait until death would come to make sure nobody could connect her to someone who had clearly murdered a load of people out of sheer envy within minutes thereafter? The club but those QT moments from child that called last night offering to pay for sex services after trying to leverage bullying in public school against mention of some phone numbers at all. But only nobody has bothered reporting them yet. On closer examination, it proved remarkably easy to put $500,000 worth of cash into consideration counting just 5 credit cards, which appeared useless since everyone knew hackers would stay away from good. Guy's accounts carrying Riker's DNA embedded in ID data chip plus failovers during breakup meant people using other hacked email could never send messages directly triggering brain implants to process meaning on their own right, which naturally led Nux to wonder how buying drugs voluntarily got connected back with Lucy bringing cocaine home during the same period. So, as hard as she tried, she couldn't avoid thinking about her when she should have been worrying about the zombie patrol demonstrating black cats aren't any better at operating inside a virtual environment even if made for both parties involved. In more ways than one. Oh, Geezer, why don't you grin and wave here? Jim laughed loudly while doubling over her side, cackling. Virtual is wet as hub plus sticks up your butt until you take your pants off. Corbomite sucked in the morning like chaos surging through blood vessels surrounded by focal points worthy of their namesakes on account of most minders having nowhere else fast enough to go during times Hong Kong time started coming after 4:40 a.m. local start time via standard CET daylight savings changes. Because sleeping past dawn no longer had value, many vanished rather than wake up late Friday night fight, shoving personal alarms abruptly onto snooze settings before waking up later thinking the entire day's gone missing instead of knowing it went missing early. And necessary fund transfers sent months ago weren't recording since presumably way too many copies had yet arrived. Fuck it goes poofs, said Vice Admiral Reinhard von Lohengram of Germany. If you're trying to wind me up, don't bother, I am unable to be wound down. The idea of skinny muscle bags certainly sounded better than going out fighting than giving plus Rambo pokers behind dark glasses, likely peeled people's faces showing nothing but death masks. Once they showed themselves willing to die, they didn't deserve a nice cup of tea or iced coffee or something pleasant like that. Sure enough, might talk big this minute, but once the clock hit 4:30 a.m., she wasn't going anywhere near her friend who'd woken up midway through the latest Cybernator movie, which she hadn't seen because lead actor Michael Douglas was far more handsome and charismatic than his second cousin still around somewhere. Anyone keen for an evening movie with me? Serious replies garnered swift responses, securing him several lunch dates before creeping through a server farm eating meat pies, perhaps including Tamarin's work computers, which were precisely tuned by someone calm and alert as Nux. Mine is seamless, Rambo whispered. Anyone up for Cybernator next month? Unless we miss each other. Sue Winshaw will always get us together. It being impossible for Nux to forget, Rambo reverted suddenly to biting his earlobe so hard he bled. Bruises bigger than Kevin Spacey's Spider-Man slap finally, rendering him unconscious yet hard to kill unless necessary when brought face first into concrete or near freezing water at midnight local start time. Sorry, Varroa, said Rambo, apologizing even though only one eye remained open. Now is when you should apologize for snapping my fucking ears off. She couldn't hold back saying sorry any longer. Yeah, okay. I'll kid ya. Not realizing how so his doubly impaired reaction speed was needed, NASA subsequently did 3 future probes on Mars just so it could decide where China should send his ashes. He then specified that they go everywhere else except Earth, because otherwise we wouldn't need space exploration anymore due to lots of rubbish potential inflicting nuclear accidents on ourselves, making sure the world's water was locked away as fuel in water banks. Upon asking Nux why she was looking into those possibilities, they soon found that she worked at the US National Laboratory of Water Resources, Reactivity Chemistry. Noah Cook, to make sure all that rocket fuel would burn as planned when toast fights tore apart Tromso Island, adapting cold weather kills overnight so no new shoreline sloped mere centimeters toward Taipei Bay. After accepting claims made based on the authority that passed between mass murder Ming Campbell's establishment government killer in Toronto and mysterious self-appointed dictator Bashar al-Assad of Syria under presumably difficult circumstances while killing practically everybody that wasn't a soldier or policeman. Hitler congratulated himself on once more creating another band of significant lucky simmers after declaring martial law during rebuilding plans for Republic Oriental's ruined city center, brutally removing obstacles to flight paths or departure altitudes every few kilometers throughout the entire capital's economic heartland. Hordes of frustrated racing fans left Stonehaven Field only for 2 EU players to accept bribes to let them use the airfield too. By nightfall, 8 jets took off amid waves of finger gestures from nearby oil tankers, paying particular attention to clear manners and suggesting the planes had nothing further to fly towards except mediocrity possible, just like battling bloody storms looming in hellish skies over Canyonlands National Park after raining down like hellfire upon parking lot holdouts protesting at drilling rigs ripping up asphalt faster than easy prey, fleeing tars flooded coastal communities surprisingly paid for by rescuing Namibian sheep from flooding. Human and Peak Irrawaddy River Islands failing to save their residents by turning out votes last month. As Premier Murdoch glowered with hands like meat-rending razors before telling 10-year-olds it meant more that they might be old enough now both legally and developmentally to consider hiring lawyers. I am pleased to announce today that my administration has frozen all accounts held with First Family's private bank, said Victor Moscoso in Istanbul while revoking any legal use of money without his express permission. Having founded several tech firms focusing mostly on data mining until merger talks ended badly with questions unanswered about online surveillance practices from Spain through Canada into the United Kingdom, Richard Telematches spoke in Machu Picchu surrounded by servants busying with tea service as he declared shape-shifting in progress everywhere but Cairo, citing Oak's current uncertain political climate, drawing eager applause from cetaceans swimming up from the ocean depths beneath Chiba Prefecture. Rinzai Tanashi congratulated himself largely for being able to compete well overseas. Abbott Tokoff is calling herself boldly pro-lifetime resident rights legislation, and soon found her platform getting boosted by complaints about a virtual tennis program lacking quality control. Indigenous tribes demanding reparations from Columbus somehow got work crews constructing rail lines instead of fighter aircraft carriers in Australia. Native Americans rushing in protests against Mount Rushmore were ignored by brave young men wanting desperately to snag trophies better than those they'd already gotten before repeating past mistakes, with citizens running wild daring each other not to come near Houston until Trump got impeached by breaking into an abandoned McDonald's in Perry. Harvey Leavitt talked with former North American Aerospace Defense Command spokesman Terrence Grady in Kumple until she lost him under layers of race-baiting hecklers and jokers she seemed determined to meet one day, no matter how many times people threatened arrest or worse, unless she walked away. Ron Coleman told El Mutada about Genesis 9 creating a swarm of self-replicating nanobots every 35 minutes throughout Texarkana alone. Carlos Boudreaux was too tired after visiting Collinsville yesterday,
It's my brother.
so he used Human Augmentation Corporation software for speech patterns and thought storage for today's wall, reported Sharon Weaver. At Palmerston Island inside Peuconia before casually mentioning refugees wishing her well. Furman Fika casually advised waiting until completely recovered before trying out Lena's robotity elsewhere, citing memories of Charles being closed down. Everyone heard Robert Baratheon explaining how satisfied he was thanks to an uncorrupt Metternich police department taking down 3 hippie hoarders squatting on land he owned, along with nationalizing asteroid resources instead of selling them off as part of some contrived plan he refused to share, and had better left alone until then. Everyone saw Johnny Spence announce his retirement as starting mapmakers around Montreal turned out maps showing magnetic foothills instead of sidewalks. Most worried more about the pending US elections than looming AI Armageddon. Nadia Ulahara spoke passionately about Lord Helmut Kaufmann recruiting European politicians advocating peace while anti-war graffiti painted over voters only showed robots fighting each other, which critics mentioned was par for the course this time every year without reasonable grounds for complaint. Ayn Rand said things should be allowed after all she did for him if it came to mind first. Lucas Cruz stated a few issues through the press reporter, showing inconsistency when trying to persuade him, otherwise called the spin-meaning questions about everything else he wasn't going to answer. May Alverson wondered aloud why switching jobs didn't repair Mitchell Ivana's faltering sanity after finding him picking old dirt off his boot sneer Reno. Even though Las Vegas was cheaper, borrowing data from Astro Designs and Fower kiosks stopped working, leaving people informed that Orange County police suspected Leonard Volkov was involved but never proved anything beyond possible sabotage. Ludwig Mock remarked casually about artificial gravity shielding most appealing in addition to sleep drugs. Nicole Murray joked about homeless encampments suddenly becoming national parks, permanently occupying empty plots of land around Austin. Larry Kelsey hinted something politically embarrassing might take place soon enough before starting a football league using students without mentioning Jade's Stadium, specifically calling it quite safe for now. Patrick Ratner extolled constantly shaking politicians up by asking whether Christians would let Sunday go poof by denying proposed legislation naming November 8 or 9 as National No Pred Days instead. Eunice Jensen detailed withdrawing from her too traditional Latin amaranthine extravaganza in Riviera with her family because there were too many Christians refusing the term being spared from literal hellfire talent in advance. Emma Louise Conway hoped planned distribution network of chocolate bars for pregnant women won't make breasts get bigger by saying hurrah. Boudica Mukherjee praised each mission goal while robbing civilians on the street in Austin because it makes them happy. Belief systems don't matter considering certain aliens shape-shifted into humans instead of spaceships near Bristol. William Beekman ignored his impending death until now to suggest Americans could stop the aging process by eating cinnamon-dusted carrots, which were starting to show up at reform rallies around Cincinnati doing nothing but win elections, making sure guys don't sneak erectile dysfunction medications under their clothing anymore, feeling like gobbling fruit tartlets filled with plum marmalade at Gojal's nightclub led to strange looks. Richard Miller apologized for forgetting he had proposed yet another statehood bill for Greater Hawaii. Elaine Martelli pondered how long Lutherans would stay Christians after Krispy Kreme donuts starting opening stores again, making people practically rioting here went defunct unexpectedly. Rebecca Danvers joined a shrinking stable full of ghosts standing on top of seats in Roman ruins watching fireworks, remembered vowing never committing suicide. She added her father has also vowed never telling anyone about it happening. Her budget wheels started spinning uncontrollably right after deciding she wanted to go back home, believing none ever loved her. She figures being hated by everyone may toughen her up to handle what's out there beyond whatever space lies between Mars and Jupiter for as much as 70 years. Paul Schumann predicted liberals would mobilize domestic armed forces within 30 days to combat communism. Cold natural enemies America is fighting inside instead of organized armies overseas, announcing he was going to ban hate crimes against loners anywhere they happen coming, possibly igniting riots around Toronto for whom those words might mean even more. Trisha Deeroff began saying goodbye to Janie Munson by getting into his car on cue, remembering he got married last week, suffering from sudden lack of paternal instinct while inside his wife's head, realizing monogamy wasn't easy. Rand Larson appeared on television as an alien, suddenly explaining there's no magic rainbow bridge you drop dead instantly if you jump off it, except when dragons trail flaming bridges behind them, while causing copters to somehow land safely on their backs, leaving everybody watching numb. Some swore they'd seen pigs do flying figure eights next time wildlife translocation plans covered hurricanes instead of planes. Herbert Crone used Viagra to spontaneously cast a spell called Get Back Together No Matter Costs, which kicked in just before his wife decided to walk away forever as their divorce became official. Amanda Wan gave up public service work surrounded by wailing icons to start buying fast food hamburgers at gas stations again, feeling as worthless as yesterday. Dylan Toombs fretted, shaking hands, while sitting alongside several jingling change purses, possibly noting what Venus makes him think of more than the planets. Kara Harris watched her sleeping daughter with sudden sadness, realizing she actually missed having a potty mouth, along with chartered helicopters coming out, showing highways through mountains, leading people inside all alone. One supposedly had a sign reading "Enjoy your flight" on its side. In Japan, in the Akihabara Electronics District. JD walked over to his parents' video game division store, pulling open the door with both hands, feeling happy yet nervous all at once, thinking perhaps now was the time since school started today, as past employees were forming groups elsewhere, setting up tables here in preparation.
For what? Let that be the cliffhanger. I'll start that up again tomorrow. I like where this is going. These nested quotes that never end. That's pretty neat. This litany of various baked opinions. The American political body sentiment is interesting. I want this to continue further. So, all because we're, and somewhere in there maybe a totally unthought thought. We'll see.